Welcome back to the Vinyl Word Podcast. As always, I'm Steve Beach.
And I'm Brian Mayer. Hello.
This is kind of a bonus episode. As you may have seen on social media and some other things, that we had an interview with Ryan Trares at the Daily Journal last week, and came out in the paper today, Wednesday, March 13th. It was kind of exciting to read.
Yeah, it was.
It was a good interview, so we just wanted to kind of share the audio from that.
I just want people to not pay too much attention to my gigantic forehead on the picture. I really wish that I would have made a better impression with Ryan, because he put that right there. And
yeah. Oh, I know.
Not that it makes me self-conscious, but, you know, I think about it whenever someone looks at me.
Right. So. Yeah, and I think that both of us were like dueling foreheads. It was so bad. So... But anyway, this is why we focus on audio. Because Brian and I both have good faces for podcasts.
Yes, I know.
But anyway, as far as listening to the audio, it wasn't recorded, well, it was recorded in the studio, but not using studio equipment. So the audio is not going to be the best. With that, please enjoy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It happens.
Right.
Cool. Well, again, thank you guys for doing this. It just sounds like a really interesting thing, and your guys' podcast is really fun. So I think people would get into it. So
thanks.
Yeah. So, kind of starting out with, where did it come from? How did you guys decide that you wanted to do this?
It started with a record.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I always like going to yard sales and stuff, looking for records and things. And so I found Dr. Earl Goldsmith, which was one of our episodes, talks to your kids about sex. So I'm like, this has got to be interesting. So at the time, I had like an old record player and stuff in my garage. So Brian and I were out there with friends, and I was kind of listening to it, and we were just like making comments about it, like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous, and all kinds of stuff. So we're big fans of Mystery Science Theater, which is kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about something. I said, hey, you know what? We should do a podcast, of like some of these records and stuff. I had a couple of them at the time, just oddball kind of stuff. I always had this knack for just looking for weird, unique records.
Okay.
So anyway, Brian was like, well, it sounds okay, but I don't think we could find enough material. And so that day I went to Goodwill, just kind of looking around, finding stuff, and I found Miss Migsy record, which is our first one.
Okay.
So I took a picture of it and sent it to Brian. And remember his comment, he was just like, I stand corrected.
I have rarely have I been more wrong than I was about the amount of material available.
Yeah, just scrolling through the list of your guys' podcast, the names of these things are...
Yeah.
I mean, you would never imagine there'd be those sort of things out there.
No.
The variety was what killed me.
Yeah.
There's instructional, there's educational, there's informative, there's people trying to turn kinetic activities into a static one, and trying to reconcile those is so interesting.
Yeah. Especially like some of the instructional ones, because just the idea itself sometimes just seems so inane.
Yeah.
Like, here had a bowl.
Which is, it makes so
in your
much
house.
sense.
Oh, absolutely.
And even in the instruction, he says something about, pull back the rug. And it's like, really, meant a bowl in my house? It's like,
just throwing cannonballs
right.
all the way.
Or instead of some 2 liters or something. Or those days, I guess it'd be milk bottles or something in your house.
Something that you really shouldn't be throwing a heavy ball at.
Right, exactly.
I'm just imagining glass milk. Broken glass everywhere.
Don't step there. Watch out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Confused children in the living room as dad's cursing, throwing a ball in the hall.
Standing on the couch, so they don't get cut feet or anything.
Yeah.
Is Daddy going to be okay, Mommy? And she's like, I don't know, sweetie.
Have you guys known each other for a long time? Or
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have been friends for a while?
Yeah. Yeah, my oldest son is 24.
Okay.
And so our kids kind of grew up together.
Oh, right on.
So we've known each other for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, and we found somewhere in there that our comedic tastes were both of the...
Similar.
Yeah, similar, like to where I would make an obscure joke and he would just turn and look at me and I would be like, people,
you get it. You get my joke. Yeah. Meanwhile, his wives would just roll their eyes at us.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. So.
Yeah. They would talk meaningful, emotional things, and he and I would make fart jokes. I mean,
Right.
It was a perfect relationship.
That's the best way to
Right,
way
yeah.
to make friends. So
Right.
good deal. As you got started doing it, where would you find these records? How would you decide what you wanted to actually do podcasts about?
It's a lot of panning, like panning for gold. It's a lot of panning for trash. Initially, yeah, we would just go to vintage stores, Goodwill, and some other places.
Yeah.
They would run across something, but a lot of times it was online. Sometimes looking at and just finding other sites. Like one of them is Discogs that we use that I wasn't familiar with before.
Yeah.
So I came across that and found all kinds of just weird stuff. So of course on eBay you can find anything on eBay.
We've also been lucky enough. We grew to know the owners of Karma Records.
Oh, nice.
And
Oh, yeah.
they have been kind enough to let us have access to some of their personal records.
Okay.
Yeah, like the Stan Musial one. It belongs to one of the owners at Karma. His name's Jim.
Okay.
And so we're like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, can we borrow it? It's like, yeah. I'm like, thank you so much. We'll take good care of it. Yeah, but even just talking about inane ones, how to teach a kid to hit a ball by listening to a record, looking at pictures.
Yeah.
Which was it was a promo from a gas station.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of those records were that,
Yeah.
It'd have Texaco on it or something,
yeah.
I have like some Christmas albums that would say, Shell gas station or Amoco, whatever. You get a full tank of gas, you get a free record.
I feel like I have some of those in my
Probably.
parents' record collection from back in the day.
Yeah, probably.
And it makes sense. Whenever I think of the birth of my savior, I think of pumping gas.
Well, yeah.
Right, exactly.
It goes hand in hand. It really does.
Absolutely.
Right.
Once you guys decide to start doing this and you find the records, what you were kind of explaining a little bit, but what's your process? How do you, turn just joking about a record into kind of a show?
At the beginning, it was all chaos, and then it was competition, and then it turned into collaboration. We just learned from the process. At the very beginning, it was just basically us yelling out loud at the same time. Then it became us writing jokes and separately. And then we learned that we were just waiting for our turns to shout instead of just shouting at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was still not really meshing
Really
well.
cohesive,
And
yeah.
so then we began listening together and doing some writing together. And oftentimes, not every time, but a theme will emerge
Okay.
from there. And then once a theme emerges, we just try to make a conscious effort to at least revisit that. Not every joke has to tie to it, but it's helpful to have a through thread.
Yeah, a through thread, through stuff.
And this is, that's probably the part that I enjoy the most. I think Steve enjoys the process very much, and I enjoy the writing.
Okay.
It's I write a lot, and the majority of the jokes I write are terrible. They're so bad, but you learn to improve each and every time. You learn why it doesn't work, and so you can try again.
That's cool.
Yeah, so when we first started writing, it was just kind of like, I was telling you earlier,
Yeah.
Brian says a joke, I say a joke. So now, as we just try to do more, back and forth, I'll say something stupid and Brian corrects me or vice versa, just kind of a short little conversation about stuff or, mentioning things and kind of a back and forth
Yeah.
together. So.
And that's a helpful thing, I think, for the listener because it prevents one of us from dominating and therefore it unintentionally becoming boring.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's one of the general rules we go by. Did you tell him also, we always make a conscious effort to keep our podcast under 30 minutes.
Okay.
Oh,
So that they are
yeah.
so that they are easy to listen to in and out. So many pods out there are 2 hours of just three people who all think the same thing.
Just giving opinions.
All talking.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's emotionally exhausting. So
I mean, some people enjoy it because I have listeners, but it's just not. We just want it to be different.
Yeah.
Just quick, funny. Something you can listen to on your way into work or running errands, whatever. Just something quick. But still entertaining.
From listening, it seemed like it just kind of flew by. It didn't seem.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was an episode so much as just short conversations.
and it has taken effort to both create that and then maintain that because it's easy to to veer.
Yeah.
And you
Oh,
know,
sure.
and so Steve's editing skills come into play, and he does an excellent job of taking a rambling, borderline incoherent conversation and turning it into something that I'm not ashamed to have someone listen to.
Well, we're both guilty of it. You know, a couple episodes we'll just, you know, at the ending of it, after the record, we'll just get off on some tangent. It's kind of related, but kind of not. And so we're just kind of talking with it. And it's like, oh, we've been talking for 40 minutes now, including the records. It's like, yeah, we're going to cut some stuff here, you know.
So yeah, you know, when you guys come in here, you know, you use the equipment, you record. Kind of what's the process once you get done recording whatever you're recording?
Yeah, so just it's been a little bit easier here from like the raw data and everything else.
Yeah.
Because like when we record at home, we'd be listening to the record and, you know, earphones, whatever, and talking to a microphone and stuff. So when I would edit, I would have to take that audio from the record and time it up with our back and forth track.
And then any edits you make automatically cause you to keep
to
moving
shift.
that.
Sure.
Yeah, so if it's like a half second off, it sounds weird. So now, you know, it's us talking and the record together. So it makes it easier, at least, you know, for the record
Creates
part.
one file.
Okay.
Yeah,
We,
one track.
Yeah, which was so much more convenient for Steve, and we didn't realize it was going to be that
Yeah.
until he took it home, and he was like he texted me or called me. It was like, Brian, he's like, this is going to be so much easier.
Yeah, I don't have to time up things. It's like, you know, hear part of the record and listen to a joke. It's like, does that sound right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I would hit it, then I'd be like, you know, 3 minutes in the record, and some joke would be like a second before something said. I'm like, crap. It just sounds bad. So yeah, so just you know, adding the music that you hear from the beginning, the record scratch, all that stuff that you hear. Yeah. So more of the editing is like on the intro. When we came in one time, we recorded, and the first time we recorded, this is kind of embarrassing because we did this whole Facebook promo. It's like, hey, we're in this recording studio to sound better.
Yeah.
And like I'm sounding like I'm on top of the mic, and Brian's sounding like he's in the other room. Just because we didn't have things set right or whatever on the board, so we're like,
Turns out we're idiots who aren't like, you know, recording professionals, and
I just thought,
just
you know,
because you have the equipment, you know.
yeah,
It'll just do it for you.
I just would assume everything be set to some kind of default, and it would just sound good. Most of the time, I'm like, there's no way I could tweak it to make it sound better. It's like, well, we'll just publish it. We'll just make it a one-off. And so then we came in here one time and just recorded some stuff, just kind of play around, play with different settings and stuff to make sure that things sound right.
Mm-hmm.
So how long have you been doing it here at the library?
We started in December, I think we did.
Yeah, I was going to say it's only been a few months.
Okay.
And I was very excited when we found this.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a fabulous place for us to record, and having it be not in one of our homes allows better focus.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have dogs.
Understandable.
Coming up for attention.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you might hear if you listen close on some of our other episodes, you'll hear like a dog walking by or a car driving by.
My favorite is the grandfather clock.
Oh yeah.
Chimes.
So there's a room, and right there, there's just a grandfather clock room. So grandfather clock service, and you'll be talking, and you hear bang, bang.
Adds the atmosphere. It's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's ambiance, if you will.
Yeah,
There you
exactly. Yeah, a dog barking or something. And
So just looking at your guys' the different ones you guys have done, you've done a lot of ones over the years. Do you have a favorite record that you guys have found, or one of the weirdest ones that you just thought was
I think
just above the heap?
Go ahead. You share yours.
Well, I think I have a couple of different answers, but like one for the full record itself is the Hear How to Bowl. I think just for joke writing, the theme elements, and our interactions, I really enjoy listening to both of those episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but there was an episode that we did early, Karate Moves, and that was the first one where I really felt like, oh, this is actually something.
Yeah.
The way that I have described the pod to so many people just in general is like, oh, you know, you're trying to be famous, and I'm like, no, like I'm screaming into the void.
Yeah.
I just
there's
enjoy,
thousands of podcasts.
I truly enjoy just being able to try writing jokes and see how challenging of a process that is, and then how rewarding it is when a joke hits. And it was karate moves when I felt like there was just a handful of jokes.
We kind of
in
turned
there.
the corner, I think.
Yes, and
as
I
far
was
as
like,
quality, it's like a light bulb just went on both of
Yeah.
us. Just
yeah. So, and I'm curious to hear your answers.
yeah.
Probably all the episodes where I had laryngitis and.
Can't hear Brian. Darn. No. Yeah, karate moves I think is one.
Yeah.
And then it was called Develop Your ESP Powers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just because some of the things. I mean, he was just straight up scamming people.
Oh,
Yeah.
like he has a super thick Boston
I was gonna say,
accent.
like, does he have a thick Boston
Yeah.
accent?
Yeah.
And stale air.
Yeah.
He
Oh
has
my
breathing
gosh.
exercises. Yeah, but and that was the first time we only did one side
Okay.
because the other side
Yeah.
was
It was-
boring as all get
Yeah.
out. Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
like
He
you
was
said,
a-
stale
he was a
air.
nice
Like
guy scammer.
yeah, like telling people, we have stale air in our lungs, and so
Yeah.
we have to get rid of this stale air. I'm like, how does that work? Just all these things that were just straight up scams and everything. And yeah, the side two was just now sit in your chair straight
It was
up,
guided meditation, which
breathe
was
in. Yeah, so it was
Okay.
boring. So
too
we're like,
difficult to
Yeah.
block. For
Yeah, you
Yeah,
really,
it's
really
too much.
couldn't do. Yeah.
yeah. So, but the side one of that, yeah, it's just yeah, straight up scamming people, and buy my record,
Yeah. Yeah, 444, 44, 44. It was.
Oh yeah, because he was talking about this breathing pattern, and it was like, 4 sets of 4, and 3 sets of 3. So we made up some number, So call us now, 444, 44, 44.
Yeah. And,
Order now. Get your record.
and that was the episode I learned that Steve's Boston accent is much better. We were competing, and I was losing.
It can be tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to
Well,
perfect.
Well, I've heard strengths.
And this is Boston accent.
I
There you
guess
go.
that's my one contribution to one episode.
So as you guys have been doing this, have you seen it grow? I mean, have you seen people responding to it and
Yeah. Just kind of started, just our local friends here
Yeah.
and stuff. And then, we would tell different family members, out of state, about it. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, I listen all the time. I, have, 2 of my friends at work that listen to it all the time. And we have fun doing it. We don't have like thousands of listeners, which is fine.
Sure.
For us. It's just, it's fun doing it.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned something about, writing jokes. I think it's one thing that we've learned just in general about comedy in general, that it takes work. It's not just, I'm funny, so I can just get up on stage and tell jokes. No, it takes work, and just, we'll hear, watching videos of other comedians, just talking about their process and stuff and how they write things. And it's a process.
Yeah.
It takes work, the right words, the right timing of things. And it's the same thing, this podcast, just saying the right things at the right time.
No, it absolutely is. I enjoy this, but actually I enjoy it for the grind.
Okay.
I realize that might sound silly, but I have a deep appreciation for comedy, and doing this
Good comedy.
Yes, for
should
good.
say.
Yeah, but this also helps me understand how people make bad comedy, and because it's easier.
Yeah.
And they might not know or might not care about putting in the work.
Right.
But like when you hear like a genuinely original joke or something delivered in a way, you're like, how many hours did it take
Right.
to deliver that 5-second line?
Right. How many attempts at different, comedy clubs that just didn't land right, Yeah, it's just, we'll watch movies that are funny. It's just, you have a better appreciation of like jokes, why it's funny. It's like, oh, that was pretty funny. It's just, you learn to appreciate the craft in it,
Yeah, the craft, that's the word. Absolutely.
They seem pretty funny when I heard them. So
Oh, thank you.
that kind of takes care of the questions I had.
Okay.
Is there anything that I didn't touch on that you guys want to add on?
No, one of the, purely on the side, but one of the
Yeah.
more interesting records we found as we were doing this was an instructional dance record with Betty White,
Interesting.
who loved to dance and knew Arthur Miller.
I think I'd
Arthur
heard
Murray.
that
Yes.
somewhere.
Arthur Murray.
Arthur Murray, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the 40s, as television was a new medium,
Yeah.
one of the live shows that they had was teaching people to dance.
Okay.
That's where he got the national exposure in order to turn into the Arthur
Arthur
Murray
Murray
School.
Studios.
And Betty White enjoyed dancing, and she was an early vaudeville to television presence.
Yeah.
And so she was a frequent guest on the show.
Okay.
As a serious guest. Like, we saw this record, and we're immediately like, oh boy, Betty White being saucy and
Comedy.
like teaching
Yeah.
people to dance. How can we lose? And then we listened, and it was pure...
Strictly instructional.
Just
Straight down
yeah.
the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to use this. But it's just a fascinating
Yeah.
little piece of
Still
history.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when we found too, even before we started the podcast, we found it at Carmen actually. It's Shel Silverstein reading like some of his poems from like Lighthouse in the
Oh
Attic.
yeah.
You know, and you read those like, yeah, they're funny, a little weird, but they're fun. But it's even more interesting listening to him tell them.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
a
sure.
few of them just, you know, his weird voice and stuff, his inflection on things.
He has a high-pitched, raspy voice.
Yeah.
But when you listen to a poet read their own stuff, you are getting exactly
Yeah.
how they
it was
intended.
meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. You know, even if we don't, you know, find a record for comedy purposes, it's interesting how it, you know, ties into things. Like Glenn W. Turner,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Good for adding the W.
You know,
Glenn Turner is an actor. So
yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
add the W.
Gotta have
So
the W.
he was kind of like the father of all the pyramid schemes, you know. So that's, you know, he you know, talks about, you know, selling stuff and
Yeah. Good deal. Well, guys, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time to talk to me.
Ba-ba-da-ba-ba.